It should be a fascinating season, and to talk about it, a man who had a fascinating career that finally has him among the greats. He was enshrined in Canton, Ohio, just this last summer. We just had it a few weeks ago. Bryant Young, the Hall of Famer, nice enough to join us here on Damon and Ratto. And have you gotten used to being introduced as a Hall of Famer yet, Bryant?
You know what? It's still sinking in. I really appreciate you guys having me on, but it takes some getting used to. Definitely humbled by it all, and just the week was incredible. Enjoyed by an amazing group of people that's been a part of this whole journey.
The further you get away from the weekend, is there one conversation or one moment or memory from your enshrinement that has stayed with you longer than the others?
I think there's been some really significant moments, and from getting to be around the Hall of Famers, guys that have been the standard for their position for the league, that have represented the league and their prospective teams so well, but just being in their presence and just having conversation with some of those guys, it's really been, for me, just things that I've taken away with. Those have been golden opportunities and conversations. I'm just humbled to be among such a group of guys that have paved the way, that have expanded the game and represented it well. Such a unique fraternity of men. But there's been some awesome topics of discussion I've had during the week, just in terms of enjoying it, taking it in as much as you can, and just enjoying the moment. And I tried to do that as best I could, leading up to the party. And once I got to the party, it just went by. I blinked and the party was over. But I tell you what, having a chance to go to the Ray Nitschke luncheon, have a chance to do the gold jacket ceremony, and then the parade, all of that was just such a moment of just amazement for me. And I tried to take it all in, but it was an incredible week, and so many things happened. And you try to rank some of those things, from top down, but it's hard to do. All of them were significant. Just an amazing week.
Was there a point, though, during the week in Canton where not that it dawned on you that you were a Hall of Famer, but that it felt comfortable to you to say that to yourself? Where you just go, yeah, I earned my way here. It's right that I got inducted here. I belong here.
Probably,
or are you still
sort of a year or two too long?
Yeah, or are you still sort of in that overwhelmed stage?
You know what? I've been very humbled in terms of it's always been about timing. I know what I did as a player. I know how I represented the game, and I felt like my body of work was good enough, although underserved and under publicized. I felt that way, and it was just a matter of things kind of happened the way they did. And, it was just a matter of time, I felt like. And if it was to happen, it would happen definitely on God's timing. I felt like, for me, I'm always going to keep perspective on it, just in terms of why it could not have been, but to have it happen and to be one of 362 members of the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's still a humbling thing to say. And, it's still sinking in for sure.
Bryant Young here on 95.7 The Game. Your speech was fantastic. Your comments and thoughts about your son were so poignant, man. It definitely hit, and just a really very wonderful, emotional day for you for obvious reasons, and couldn't have happened to a nicer guy with a better reputation. So congratulations once again. Awesome that it happened. It really was special, and a lot of those ceremonies kind of go by, and I don't know, they feel like they're just going through the motions. You put people through emotions, and that was very special. So cheers. Cheers to you, man. It was very, very special, very poignant. So we got ourselves week one. And the whole point, as we were saying, is we don't want to overreact to anything we saw. Did you watch that game last night, any bit of it at all? Because the Rams, they got boat raced last night by the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of the game. I was at a university game coaching it up. We got back to the hotel. We're on the road. We're playing this school that's on the East Coast in Wilmington. And so we got back to the hotel, and I caught the second half of the game. And I tell you what, the Bills are for real. They came to play. They got a great defense. The quarterback, Josh Allen, doing a great job managing the game. Can get the ball down the field. They got some players, and I felt like last year they were that close as well. And you just know the Rams, too, were going to be a good football team, but it came down to the turnover battle. They lost the turnover battle. The Bills won it. They played great defense, and the game ended up the way it should have, according to how things would go if you make that many mistakes.
To the extent that you did watch the game, and you're watching defensive line play, I presume, because that's how you made your rep, are the positions being played differently now than you played? Because football advances in every way, and I think people sort of overlook the sense that defensive line plays change too. Do you notice how much it's changed, and can you articulate how much it's changed?
I think it's still a very physical game up front. When it's especially in the inside between the tackles. You're going to get your double teams, your single blocks. You're going to get your pound run game, and so you got to play stop, knock it back, and own your gap, and be able to come off blocks and make plays. But from a pass rushing standpoint, guys that are really good, you got to make sure you got an answer for them in protection, such as Aaron Donald, who's a beast, and on the end, Von Miller as a rush in, you got to bring it back his way at times, and you just got to be able to have guys that can protect against really, really good players like Von Miller and Donald. And from a protection standpoint, I mean, it's nothing different that's been done in the past. I think what you're seeing is just how guys train in their off season. I think it's definitely come a long way. Guys are collaborating a lot more. Now you see guys are, having workout sessions together, and they're doing these pass rush camps, and they're just working on different crafts and doing supplemental training. So it's a lot different in that way in terms of the development of a player over the off season and the things that guys are working on in the off season. It definitely helps you during the season, and so you see a lot of that in terms of the game changing and developing in that way. But in terms of just the toughness, the grit, and just the grind of the play up front, nothing's changed in that regard. But you just see a little bit of technique changes and some nuances in how guys may rush or use their hands on rushes. You got some really explosive players out there in these days as well.
Bryant Young, the Hall of Famer here on 95.7 The Game. And the Niners are opening in Chicago. They go there with a defensive line that they would love to see perform like Buffalo's defensive line did last night. Buffalo came away with 27 pressures on 41 passes and 7 sacks. And wow, it was a rough night up front for Los Angeles, to say the least. But this is how the 49ers are built. They built this team with more focus on their defensive line than maybe any other position group when you look at their draft picks and where they spent them throughout the years getting to this moment. You've watched it. You've seen it come of age. What impresses you about this defensive line, and how much of a difference could Javon Kinlaw, if he can stay healthy and live up to his reputation, will he make just by being the man in the middle?
I think he's a difference maker for this team. I think anytime you have really good edge rushers in Bosa, and you got pressure that's coming from Eric as well on the inside, maybe on the outside as well, when you got a key cog guy who can push the pocket and be a stout run defender on first and second down, like a Kinlaw, you really help your team. And I think having a chance to see Kinlaw, how he's changed his body, the things that he was able to do to get off to a fast start coming off his injury in the preseason, to put himself in position to start fast this season. So I'm excited about what he's going to be able to do. I'm in his corner. I'm rooting for him. I think he's going to be a great player and do what this team thought he would do when they drafted him.
When you were drafted in 1994, I mean, you started every game, you hit the ground running. But I get the sense that, with the exception of just a very few guys, that being a defensive lineman in the NFL takes more time than people realize. In general, is that your sense, even though you were a guy who took to it immediately?
It's different. Every player is different. You know, I'm a way different player than the next guy. And some players are it takes a little time to kind of get understanding of what's expected of them in terms of play-wise or just concept and their development as well. And you know, you can't put too much on every guy. I mean, you figure a guy's drafted here and he's slotted to be a starter and an impact player right away. But sometimes it don't always happen that way. You know, it may take a year or two or three for a guy to really, you know, take off and hit the ground running. And so, you know, again, just everybody's different. You know, you look at a Bosa who came in and had a really good first year. And there's some other players in the league that have done the same as first rounders. And again, everybody's different. With time, you just hope that you see, you know, what you invested in, that it comes to life for you, for that team, that organization. And, you know, you can't put too much. You can't paint and put everybody in a box. Okay. So just allowing them space and grace to grow and develop in their way. But I think, you know, from a physical standpoint, when I look at Kinlaw, he's a guy that I think has all the tools to be a good player. And how well and how dominant he is, that's on him. And I think he has potential to do that.
Bryant Young with us here on Damon and Ratto. I've always been curious. Was there ever a level of frustration in your career when it was happening or after it happened and you look back on it, that you were able to reach the Super Bowl in your rookie year but never able to return to that mountaintop? Or is just getting there once enough to satisfy you after the fact? Was that ever like something that bothered you about your career?
It didn't. It definitely. It pained me. You know, to come in the league your first year and you have one. It was, I love being that I came from a winning program, so I was used to winning. And then having a chance to play with the 49ers in the first year, we win the Super Bowl, and the standard and the bar has been set. And it was set up to do that. And so the second year, you're hoping that it's going to be able to repeat there. But you quickly found out that it is so hard each year to replicate those teams that year. And every year takes on its own identity. And of course, you have some times where you're rebuilding. You got to maybe kind of clean up the roster a little bit, rebuild a little bit, and you come back and you're a playoff team again. You're always shooting for that, you know. So for me, the standard was Super Bowl, and wanting to be back there every year. That was always a goal of mine. I came very close in my fourth year, I believe, and it didn't happen. We were NFC Championship game, and we lost to Green Bay, and that was the closest I got, again, to the Super Bowl.
That said, how many times in your career when things weren't going well for the team did you have to fight the frustration, knowing that you were playing at the level you were playing at, but around you other guys' levels weren't as high or something else was breaking down? How often did you feel that, and how easy was it to choke that down?
It's never easy to choke it down because, one, for all the things that you put your body through and your mental preparation in the off season and during the season, you expect to have some type of result. And it's not just an individual result. You hope what you bring to the table, to the team, it will allow you to it would accumulate in wins. And so it becomes frustrating when it's not the way you would hope it to be. But at the end of the day, as much as I love playing the game, and we love this game, we have a job to do as a player. Win, lose, or draw, you are to, whether it's you got a roster or team that's loaded with talent, you're expected to play well and perform and output. Whether you're in a kind of a mediocre team or you're in a rebuilding phase, you're expected to play at your best and give your all. That's just the professional perspective that and the approach that I took to it. Was it hard at the end of the day? You know, when the roster wasn't what you would have hoped it to be, and we just didn't do enough to win, make enough plays to win. That's just part of it. You know, you still have to go in that week, prepare, look at the things that you did right and the things you didn't do right, and you make those corrections. And you know, you still fight through energy with the same vigor and strain as you would even if you were on a winning team. And so to take care of your body and maintain it the way you needed to, even in a down year, that was just part of being a professional. And some guys didn't take it that way. You know, some guys felt like, hey, you know what, the season ain't going right, I'm not going to play as hard. Or maybe I won't train as hard. Maybe this ankle injury is a 2-week injury, and maybe I may take 5 weeks. But for me, it was important. You know, my pride was always on the line. I was playing for my teammate. I was playing for the organization and for the people that invested in me. And I wanted to make sure at the end of the day, win, lose, or draw, good team, mediocre team, bad team, that I laid my head on the pillow at night and I felt comfortable with the effort that I gave out there on the field. And that was just part of my integrity. And so those are the things that I live by, and it was important to me, no matter how the team looked that year.
208 games, 208 starts. So, yeah, you certainly put your entire career where your mouth just was, talking about being a pro and staying in shape. It's unbelievable, your durability and what you did in your career. Now there is a young man that this team turns to as its new leader in Trey Young. He has to learn how to be a quarterback, how to win in this league, how to satisfy his teammates and his coaches, and lead a franchise with more eyes on him than at any point in time than ever before, because there's more media surrounding the NFL than ever before. If you had to give Trey Lance some advice about leadership, what would it be, Bryant Young?
You know, for Trey has to just manage the game. He has an unbelievable group of men and talent around him. And Trey doesn't have to, I feel like he doesn't have to just be the guy and go force plays. If he utilizes what's around him and trusts the game plan that's in place, I'm sure Kyle and that staff is putting him in position to win. Trust the process and trust the people around you. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. I'm rooting for him. He's a talented young man. He's a good man. I hope he leads well and put his team in position to be in the playoffs and hopefully win another Super Bowl. But you know, for him, I think this is an awesome opportunity, and he gets the chance to lead a very iconic franchise. And so I'm excited for him, and I'm excited for all the guys that are part of this whole thing.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Bryant. Talking to you right before a football season begins always sounds like a good idea to us. So when we were told that we got connected with you earlier this afternoon, we were thrilled. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations again. On behalf of everyone at the station, congratulations on being enshrined in Canton, to you, your family. It takes an army to build a Hall of Famer. So a lot of people obviously had a huge hand in your spectacular career. Congrats to all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. Bryant Young, here on 95.7 The Game. A pro's pro, Ray, if there ever was one. That guy right there.
He'll do.
Pro's pro.